Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Enemy at the Gates. The title of this article is inappropriate. In the federal setup that India has, every government cares for its people within the state boundary, and that is the primary reason we have boundaries for the administrative convenience. Does it mean that one state does not care for the other? It does care, and that is the beauty of India and the idea of India. But issues and disputes may arise between the states. Why? Because of the misunderstanding. For such things, we have bodies which has constitutional status which will amicably settle these disputes. Therefore, disputes should not be projected as enemies, but these are mere misunderstanding. One such issue or a misunderstanding has been raked up between Karnataka and Kerala. Let's try and understand what this issue is all about. Let's go back to the background. Kasaragod happens to be the northernmost district in the state of Kerala. So where is it? It is in the state of Kerala, and it happens to be the northernmost district in the state of Kerala. Traditionally, this district of Kasaragod has been persistently dependent on the city of Mangalore. So this Kasaragod as a district has always relied on Mangalore, which happens to be one of the important cities in the state of Karnataka. Recently, it was alleged that from the state of Kerala, that is in specific to the district of Kasaragod, they were planning to move few people who were infected with COVID-19 to Mangaluru as well as Mysore cities of Karnataka. So the Karnataka government immediately decided to shut the Kasaragod-Mangalore highway, which is one of the important national highways that is connecting the state of Karnataka as well as the state of Kerala. So what is the viewpoint of Karnataka government? The Karnataka government basically believes at this Kasaragod-Mangaluru border at Talapadi has been temporarily blocked. Why is it temporarily blocked? Because people who have been infected by COVID-19 have been venturing into the city of Mangalore. So what they basically believe is that hospitals in Mangaluru and Dakshina Kannada district is currently overburdened. There are not enough hospitals which would be able to cater to the patients who are coming from other states. So what this also means is that COVID-19 cases may increase in the state of Karnataka. So the transfer of patients from the district of Kasaragod to the city of Mangalore, what it lead to is transmission of the disease in this particular state. So what the government of Karnataka has done, it has taken a preventive measure so that those people in Kasaragod do not enter the city of Mangalore. So the state closed the borders not only in Kerala, the Karnataka government also closed the borders at Maharashtra and Goa as well. A similar preventive measure has been taken with respect to Kasaragod along the Kasaragod as well as Mangalore city. So what we have to understand is that the government, that is the state government of Karnataka, has taken this as a preventive measure, and the Chief Minister of Karnataka, B.S. Yediyurappa, has said that safety of the people of Karnataka is important, and that is the primary reason this decision has been taken. So this is the viewpoint of the Karnataka government. Now let's look at what Kerala government has to say with respect to this issue. Kerala government has pointed out, it has pointed out because of this blockade, because the ambulance is not able to enter the national highway, and because there are supplies that are completely restricted right now, people have died in the state of Kerala as they were denied entry. So what it means is that because this particular road or the national highway is blocked, people are not able to pass through this national highway, ultimately leading to death of people and also inconvenience in this region. The people of Kasaragod have also been seeking medical help because from time immemorial, it is this Kasaragod has always relied on Mangalore. So in case of medical exigencies, in case of other issues, let's say for example the dialysis center, all these issues, the Kasaragod district has always relied on Mangalore. So if all of a sudden, if this particular highway is blocked, other medical exigencies and emergencies will not be able to be met by this Kasaragod district and its people. So what Kerala government has also done and has also requested Karnataka government is that we have also taken preventive measures as well. What we have done, we have ensured all residents are strictly quarantined. In case we have identified those people infected with COVID-19, we have already segregated them and we have already quarantined them. But in case you still do not remove, this will cause a great inconvenience to the people who have been living in the district of Kasaragod. Ultimately, this was also given to the Karnataka government, but the Karnataka government was not ready to listen to this particular argument. So finally what happens? There was a public interest litigation which was filed in the Kerala High Court. The Kerala High Court immediately accepts this public interest litigation and they come up with an interim order. So what does this interim order says? It says that denying any medical emergency amounts to violation of right to life and liberty under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Article 21 is one of the important fundamental rights and the state cannot just snatch away the life of a person, and in case the Karnataka government does not remove this particular blockage, what it lead to is violation of right to life and personal liberty, which is guaranteed and enshrined under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Then it also speaks about violation of the rights of a citizen to move freely, that which is espoused under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. So what it basically says is that you, the Karnataka government, have been violating two important fundamental rights. One is right to life and free liberty guaranteed under Article 21, and right of a citizen to move freely across the length and breadth of India. So these two violations have been done. So what the Kerala High Court has done, it has immediately issued an order to the central government. Why central government? That is because when you look at this national highway, the major custodian of the national highway is the central government. So who has the responsibility here? It has the central government. So what the Kerala High Court has done, it has requested the central government that, dear central government, you speak to the state of Karnataka, the government of the state of Karnataka, and ultimately provide us the justice. So the justice is to open this particular blockade and ensure there is free movement across the national highway. So the Kerala High Court ordered the centre to remove the blockade on the national highway at the Kerala-Karnataka border. The Kerala High Court has also said that national highway is the property of the centre and it is bound to ensure traffic in this particular place. Now the question is, how was the Kerala High Court able to issue this order to the central government? What we have to look at is Article 226 of the Indian Constitution. What does Article 226 of the Indian Constitution speaks about? It gives the power of the High Courts to issue certain writs. Kindly note, this is restricted within the jurisdiction of the Kerala High Court. But another important question that we need to answer, in case the Kerala actually senses that the cause of action has actually originated in the state of Kerala, then it will also be able to issue such a writ to the central government as well as other governments as well. So what we have to understand is that this issue of directions to the central government has been issued primarily because the cause of action is wholly or partly has taken birth in the state of Kerala. This is how the Kerala High Court was able to issue an order to the central government. But the state of Karnataka has moved the Supreme Court. Why? Because it has challenged the High Court order. Why has it challenged the High Court order? That is because it believes that the Kerala High Court does not have the jurisdiction. Why does it not have the jurisdiction? That is because this is an interstate dispute. When there is an interstate dispute that is currently between Karnataka and Kerala, it directly has to go to the Supreme Court under Article 131 of the Constitution of India. As we all know, the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is with respect to the interstate dispute, and even if this particular issue has to be taken, it has to go directly to the Supreme Court of India, and the Kerala High Court order will not stand, is what the state of Karnataka has confessed under this particular scenario. So this ultimately goes to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court of India has directed the centre to discuss with both the states, Karnataka as well as Kerala, and formulate the norms for creating the passage at Thalapadi. The Supreme Court has also directed the Union Health Secretaries to meet the Chief Secretaries of Kerala as well as Karnataka and discuss this particular issue so that there is amicable settlement of this whole issue. So what we have to understand with respect to Article 131 and its original jurisdiction has been explained on 15th of Jan 2020 under the third topic, Kerala government challenged CA in Supreme Court, where a clear explanation and an elaborate explanation of what this Article 131 has been explained. So kindly look into this issue. This is what we have to understand with respect to this article. Once we have a court order or the center settles this issue, we will take up this issue once again. Now let's look into one of the preliminary practice question. Consider the following statements. Interstate migration and quarantine is under the union list. Prevention of infectious disease moving from one state to another is the concurrent list. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is both 1 and 2. Why? Because this interstate migration and quarantine is actually in the union list and this happens to be in the entry 81. And with respect to prevention of infectious disease moving from one state to another, this is once again in the concurrent list and this happens to be in the entry 29 as well. So both the statements are right. So the answer to this is both. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the criticality of the community engagement. Before we understand what this article is, let's try and understand the meaning of community engagement. What is community engagement? Let's say, for example, there is a person in a tribal setup or there are a number of people in a tribal society. These people have their own cultural preferences. They have their own values. They have their own ethos and they have their own ambitions in their lives. Now let's come back to the urban setup. The people have their modern values. So can you compare a person who is living in the tribal area with a person living in the urban area? No. But what we also have to realize, when there is a policy program, an urban lad or a person with modern values would be able to accept a policy initiative, but the tribal person would not be able to accept the same. Why? Because he is not acclimatized to the modern values. So what you need to do is to ensure that this policy ultimately reaches the tribal person. Why? Because it is important for India. So what do? We ensure that there is one person who has basic value system, who has idea about the urban areas and idea about the tribal society as well. So this person who is part of the tribal society is recruited, he is employed, and such person is fed with the policy initiative. So what this person will do, he will give all the ideas to that tribal community so that the tribal community is able to support this very cause. So what is the community engagement here? You pick up one person from the tribal society, you ensure that this value system of the modern age is implemented through this particular person. So what basically happens is that you are recruiting a person from the tribal community, and it is this person who is accountable to you as well as to the tribal society. A similar case is to do with community health workers. So who are these community health workers? They are nothing but the frontline public health workers who are the trusted members from that community. Let's say with respect to the tribal society, we recruit a person who has a basic idea about the health scenario, and it is this person who would give an idea to the tribal community. So basically they are nothing but the frontline public workers who are trusted members of this community, who have an usual understanding of the culture, ethos, values and all the cultural aspects of that community. So they might be from the community or they may have a familiarity with that community. So among all this, what they basically do is they will overcome the cultural barriers, they'll be able to minimize the disparities, and what they will also do is to maximize the adherence of this public policy. So this is a cadre of health workers recruited by and from within the community and also accountable to the community, which would have greater affinity with the people. Now the question is, why is this important? Why do we have to recruit health workers or the community engagement workers? That is because of the recent incidents that we have seen. There was recently an attack on the ASHA worker. Why? Because basically she was conducting a COVID-19 survey. It was assumed that she was not a health worker but a government agent who was conducting a survey on the NRC. So she was immediately attacked. So what is the issue right now? If she was from the same community, the attack could have been minimized. At the same time, there have been sporadic incidents of non-cooperation. This non-cooperation was recently seen from the people who were associated with Tablighi Jamaat, and there are migrants as well who are moving from one state to another, who are escaping quarantine period. They have been unleashing violence on the police as well. Had it been from the same community, this could have been comparatively reduced. And at the same time, in the past 1 decade or so, there has been a cultural gap that has been persisting between the healthcare workers from a different region, from a different community, with that of the tribal setup and the rural beneficiaries. In order to ensure all these deficiencies are met, what we need is the government stepping up the process of ensuring that the health workers are taken directly from the community or the region that they belong to. Why? Because they have an idea of the culture, they have the idea of the values, they have the idea of the ethos that is prevalent in this community, and they would act as the bridge between the government and the community. So why does this happen? Why is this happening over a long period of time? That is because there has been a mixture of local culture, values and beliefs. Because these people have values, beliefs which are totally different, that is why this issue has been persisting from a very long period. Apart from this, there have been migrants who have been moving from one region to another. Migrants usually come from many regions and they settle down in different states and places. Why? Because these are daily wage workers. They live on a daily basis. They get their employment on a daily basis, and whatever money they get, they spend on a daily basis. In case these people economy is threatened and their livelihood is threatened, they would not listen to anyone. So they would continue to work in that particular place and they would not listen to anyone, because their own livelihood becomes a question mark. So what we need is one of the migrants or a person from the migrant community who is acting as a bridge and ensuring that these migrants comply by the rules of the government. Another issue is that we have the 21-day lockdown period. None of us are sure whether this 21-day period will be restricted to 21 days or it will be extended throughout India or in few pockets or districts. With repeated lockdowns, what it will also test is the patience and cooperation of the people. In case we have to ensure that they are able to coordinate with the government and the public personnel, a community person is once again important. At the same time, whatever government schemes, government policies and initiatives taken during this period, the upper class as well as the richer class and the upper and the middle class is able to have a sync with the government. They are able to listen to the government. Why? Because their livelihood measures have already been met. But we should be able to convince the lower strata of the society. So in order to control and convince the lower strata of the society, what we need is knowledge of their culture, their mindset, because they do not have enough education as much as the upper and the middle class. So for all this, what we require is the community engagement. So the community engagement is the prerequisite for risk communication. It is these people who would be able to communicate the threat of the virus, instill the right practices, and also ensure that they are able to combat the rumor and stigma. At the same time, what we also require is the rural awareness in the form of sending the right information in the local language, calling on the participation of the civil society organizations, and we have to meet the rural heads, the local panchayat people, and we'll have to provide all the necessary awareness for the rural sector. And finally, contact tracing activities can be initiated and can be accomplished only when there is a trustworthy relationship, and this trustworthy relationship can be supported only from the community person, is what this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says why everyone should wear masks. What this article currently speaks about, it draws a graph of x-axis and y-axis, where x-axis is represented by the time and y-axis is the number of cases with respect to the time. What it says is, during the initial phase where there is increase in the number of COVID-19 patients is called as first phase. What is this first phase? Where there is increase of the patients or people who have been infected by this disease. So there is rise in the number with respect to time, and that is called as the first phase. Then there is second phase where it has reached a particular period. This is the highest threshold mark. So the highest threshold mark is what is called as the second phase or the peak period. This is where the numbers have stopped after a point. And finally, what we have is the third phase, and this phase is where the decline starts happening. So you would be able to see that people are recovering, the vaccines have come into picture, and people have ensured that this infection does not spread any further. So this happens to be the decline phase. So this period between the first phase and the third phase is the number of patients who have been impacted by a particular infection or by a particular disease. In order to ensure the number of infection cases is comparatively reduced and there is decline with respect to the cases, India had two options. What are these two options? One is to ensure there is a strict lockdown across the length and breadth of India, and also to ensure that there is masks that are provided to every community, every individual, so the spread of this virus can be comparatively reduced. What this article calls for is it tries to understand two important scenarios. One is with respect to the lockdown, the other is with respect to the usage of masks. First, let us try and understand the importance of lockdown. What this lockdown does, it prevents the community transmission. Because people do not come in contact with each other, what we are able to understand is that we are able to isolate people and ensure that community transmission does not happen in the real life scenario. But what this article speaks about is with reference to the strict lockdown and its concerns. What are the concerns? We have the migrant workers. The migrant workers work in different regions, north, south, east, west. They travel a lot. When there is enforcement of a strict lockdown, what we will see is they are physically away from their family members. When there is crisis, when there is disaster that is struck, all of us would want to stay with our near and dear ones. And with strict lockdown, what we also see is that we are physically away and the emotional bonding is lost during the period of crisis. And at the same time, when there is lockdown, let's say all of us are in a family, the physical distance may not be able to be maintained. Ideally, there should be about 1 or 2 meters distance between the family members, which is also the concept of social distancing and minimum distancing that is required between people. But when there is a lockdown, people are asked to stay in their houses, and when it is in the houses, the social distancing or the physical distance between the family members will not be present, and there could be where the infected person could infect other people as well. So what is the alternative the article suggests? It suggests an alternative where masks will have to be provided to every single individual. What are the reasons given by the author? The author first says any infected person will not be able to infect other people when there is usage of the mask. How does this happen? Let's say there is an infected person. He is covering himself with the mask. When he sneezes, when he coughs or he speaks, all that this mask does, it blocks all these respiratory droplets. So the infection does not spread to another person. So the first key important point is the infected person will not spread the disease. Why? Because the mask is acting as a shield. Then we have an uninfected person who will also have the same protection from the droplet infection. Why? Because the infected person has already covered himself with the mask. Further, mask wearers will avoid inserting their fingertips into their nostrils and mouths. We as humans have the tendencies to touch multiple surfaces. And how does this virus spread? When we touch our nose as well as our mouth. So with the protection of the mask, what we also avoid is inserting of our fingertips into the nostrils as well as mouth, because there is protection of the mask as well. Added to this, usage of the mask constantly reminds an individual that these are the abnormal times, and all of us will have to come together to ensure that this COVID-19 virus is completely destroyed. So what is the conclusion that we can draw? Apart from the lockdown, what we have to constantly use the mask so that these advantages can also be taken up. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about My Government Corona Helpdesk. What is this Corona Helpdesk? It is the official WhatsApp chatbot. Who has designed it? It is the central government. Why has this been done? In order to eradicate fake news and spread of awareness about the COVID-19. So what does the individual have to do? All that an individual will have to do is to save this number onto his phone, and he may have to ping this number on the WhatsApp. So an individual is required to text this number to connect to the bot, and all the information, authenticate information from the central government will be immediately transmitted to the individual. So what this chatbot does, it answers all the queries of this individual with respect to the COVID-19. It gives the symptoms of this particular infection. It gives professional advice from the AIMS doctor, which is already fed in this chat box, and at the same time it will provide basic knowledge about the coronavirus outbreak, and it will also provide enough help for this individual. So what this chatbot provides is relevant information that is easy to understand, and they don't have to look at other sources and unverified information from the social media platforms. The service was initially launched in English, but currently it is available in English as well as Hindi. So what is the significance of this particular help desk? What it does is users would be able to share this information to other people as well. So this chatbot would have given you the information on your WhatsApp number, so you would be able to transmit the same information to another person, and this happens to be the authenticate information given by the central government. It also does is it prevents in fighting rumors, and at the same time educate the masses and bring a sense of calm in this chaotic environment. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into some of the preliminary practice questions. Which of the following statements with respect to ArogyaSetu app is correct? It was developed in public-private partnership. It is available in English and Hindi only. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why? This is in fact developed by a public-private partnership, but it is not only available in English and Hindi, but it is available in about 11 languages. Why have we taken this up? Because of the reference given in this article. So this was developed in public-private partnership. It will enable people to assess themselves the risk of they catching the coronavirus infection. It will calculate this based on the interaction with others using cutting-edge Bluetooth technology, algorithms and artificial intelligence. This is available in 11 languages. Now let's look into the next practice question. Hydroxychloroquine is used to treat which of the following? Retinoblastoma, malaria, rheumatoid arthritis. The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Retinoblastoma is the cancer of the retina. It is not used to treat that. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Initially, India had planned to export hydroxychloroquine to United States of America, but a recent notification has said that India will not be exporting this important medicine because it is also being tested for COVID-19 as well. As of now, it is in the testing phase. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Asian Development Bank. ADB is headquartered in Manila, Philippines. Each participant country will be assigned one vote. China holds the largest proportion of shares. Which of the above statement is or incorrect? It is asking for the incorrect statement. So the answer to this is 2 2 and 3 only. Why? Let's look into the explanation. When you look at this particular bank, it is headquartered in Manila and Philippines. This is right. And now when it comes to voting, it is modeled closely on the lines of the World Bank. So each country does not have a single vote, but all those countries who have vote, it depends on the capital subscription. And Japan happens to hold the largest proportion of shares, and it is not China. Why have we discussed this article? That is because a reference has been made under this article. What is one of the important objectives of the Asian Development Bank? Asia Pacific region happens to be a large share of world's poor, and that includes 330 million people living on less than $1.90 a day and 1.24 billion on less than $3.20 a day. So there is large scale of poverty in the Asia Pacific region. So one of the primary objectives of this Asia Development Bank is to assist the member countries and partners by providing loans, technical assistance, grants and equity investments so that they are able to ensure that poverty is eradicated. So the Asian Developmental Bank envisions an inclusive approach to fight the menace of poverty. Now let's look into the next practice question. Germany shares its borders with which of the following countries? Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands and Switzerland. And the answer to this is all the 7 countries border Germany. Now let's look into the map for the same. So Germany has borders with about 9 countries, and this includes Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Poland as well as Switzerland. Now let's look into the next practice question. Improper handling and storage of cereal grains and oilseeds result in the production of toxins known as aflatoxins, which are not generally destroyed by normal cooking process. Aflatoxins are produced by molds. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Explain how community engagement will play a pivotal role in ensuring the success of India's anti-coronavirus campaign. What are the various apps and tools introduced by the government and the private agencies to educate and reduce the negative impact of COVID-19? So please write all your answers on the comment section so that you guys can have a peer review and also come up with constructive criticism. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.